The real danger isn't evil, it's stupidity. What if stupidity isn't the lack of intelligence, but the surrender of it? What if the real threat to human civilization isn't cruelty, but mindlessness? Machiavelli understood something most people ignore. Empires don't fall because of evil. They fall because of stupidity disguised as virtue. Stupid people don't know they're stupid. That's what makes them dangerous. They speak with confidence, act with certainty, and destroy with good intentions. They march proudly under flags of morality, believing they're saving the world, when, in truth, they're feeding the system that keeps them weak. Stupidity isn't about IQ. It's about giving up your ability to think. When you stop questioning, you become a tool in someone else's hands. From school to work, society trains you to obey first and think later. You memorize, you repeat, you comply. And slowly, your independent mind fades away. Machiavelli would look at today's world and recognize it instantly. He warned that ignorance, once weaponized, destroys nations, because fools act fast and without doubt. Modern stupidity doesn't stay silent. It tweets, posts, and argues, but never thinks. It mistakes noise for truth and emotion for logic. And the few who still think for themselves, they're called arrogant or dangerous, while the obedient are praised as good citizens. But here's the truth. Independent thought is rebellion. In a world built on mental obedience, thinking for yourself is the highest form of power. So say it. I refuse to surrender my mind. Stupidity is built, not born. No one is born foolish. Every child begins curious, hungry to learn and explore, but over time, curiosity is replaced by obedience. People stop asking questions and start memorizing answers. They're told that acceptance is safer than awareness. The result? Thinking becomes a risk, and silence becomes survival. You're taught to repeat what others say, agree with the majority, and never question the system. That's how stupidity grows, not by nature, but by design. Each time you choose comfort over curiosity, your awareness dies a little. Machiavelli said, "The prince controls not the wise, but the obedient." True control doesn't require chains. It only requires minds that no longer question. When thinking stops, control begins. The world praises obedience more than awareness. The one who questions is called difficult. The one who agrees is called good. But this false goodness kills intelligence. If you want to escape, learn to think with your own eyes. Don't repeat, reflect, don't obey blindly, observe deeply. Thinking isn't rebellion, it's self-respect. Say it. I choose awareness over obedience. The most dangerous fool is the confident one. Confidence without understanding is like fire in a child's hands. It burns everything. A fool who doubts himself causes little harm, but a fool who is certain he's right can destroy reason itself. These are the people who never question, never reflect, never think. They speak loudly, act boldly, and attract followers. Not because they're right, but because they sound like they are. Machiavelli warned, "Men are so simple that he who deceives will always find someone willing to be deceived." This isn't about intelligence, it's about awareness. The hidden power of stupidity. Machiavelli's warning. People often confuse confidence with wisdom. They think a louder voice means a smarter mind, that certainty equals strength. But the truth is the opposite. Real strength lies in doubt, in the courage to say, "I might be wrong." Only deep thinkers understand that truth is complex. The confident fool doesn't see that. He oversimplifies everything, divides the world into good and bad, us and them. This fake clarity gives him comfort, but it blinds him to reality. He can't learn because he believes he already knows. He can't grow because he's trapped inside the illusion of his own intelligence. Every disagreement feels like an attack. He speaks but never listens, argues but never understands. And people follow him because confidence feels safe. They would rather follow a loud fool than a quiet thinker. That's how foolishness spreads, through imitation of arrogance. If you ever want to see who's wise, watch how they handle doubt. The wise question themselves before they question others. The fool never questions at all. Remember, confidence without clarity is chaos in disguise. Drop this in the comments. I choose clarity over arrogance. Stupidity hides behind morality. Stupidity rarely appears as stupidity. It dresses itself in goodness. People love to believe they're doing what's right, that their intentions are pure. But good intentions without awareness can cause great harm. History is full of people who caused destruction while believing they were saving the world. The fool hides behind morality because it gives him power without responsibility. When someone believes they're good, they stop examining their actions. They don't think, they justify. Machiavelli said, "Good intentions are the best disguise for manipulation." He knew that moral certainty blinds faster than greed ever could. A self-righteous person can't be reasoned with. They don't listen, they preach. They mistake emotion for truth, and that's when stupidity takes control. The problem isn't morality, it's the illusion that morality makes you smart. Kindness without understanding becomes weakness. Goodness without awareness becomes control. Modern society rewards looking good more than being right. People compete to appear kind, not to be wise. That's how stupidity hides behind virtue, loud, proud, and blind. True morality doesn't need to shout. It shows through calm awareness and quiet thought. So never let your goodness blind your reason. Say it. I choose awareness over virtue. The system profits from your stupidity. Stupidity isn't just a weakness, it's a business. The world has learned how to profit from your attention. The less you think, the easier you are to control. The system doesn't need to silence intelligence, it only needs to distract it. Distraction is the weapon of our age. Every scroll, every click, every pointless argument feeds the machine. Your focus, your emotions, your time, all traded for profit. The less you question, the more you consume. The less you think, the more predictable you become. Machiavelli said, "He who controls perception controls power." And today, perception is power. The system wins when your attention stays shallow, when you believe headlines instead of truth, emotions instead of logic. You don't need to be convinced anymore, only entertained. Stupidity has been rebranded as convenience. You're given endless choices that all lead to one place: distraction. The system doesn't want awareness, it wants engagement. It doesn't care about truth, it cares about reaction. People confuse comfort with happiness, stimulation with progress, but true awareness begins when you disconnect from noise. The moment you think deeply, you break the illusion. Machiavelli would say, power follows attention. If they control your attention, they control your mind. So take it back. Say it. I control my focus. Stupidity is power. Without awareness. Power without awareness is like a weapon in the hands of a child. It harms without purpose. And when the mind surrenders to ignorance, power turns blind, not just dangerous to others, but to itself. So never surrender your mind. Question, think, and observe. Because once awareness dies, control begins. The hidden power of stupidity. Machiavelli's warning. People often mistake confidence for wisdom. They believe a louder voice means a smarter mind, that certainty equals strength. But the truth is the opposite. Real strength comes from doubt, from the courage to admit, I might be wrong. Only deep thinkers understand how complex truth really is. The confident fool doesn't see that. He divides the world into simple categories: good or bad, us or them. This fake clarity comforts him but blinds him to reality. He cannot learn because he thinks he already knows. He cannot grow because he's trapped inside his own illusion of intelligence. Every disagreement feels like a threat. He talks but never listens, argues but never understands. And yet, people follow him, because confidence feels safe. They prefer a loud fool over a quiet thinker. That's how stupidity spreads, through imitation of arrogance. If you want to know who is wise, watch how they handle doubt. The wise question themselves before questioning others. The fool never questions at all. Remember, confidence without clarity is chaos. Say it. I choose clarity over arrogance. Stupidity hides behind morality. Stupidity rarely appears as stupidity. It hides behind the mask of goodness. People love to believe they're doing the right thing, that their intentions are pure. But good intentions without awareness can still cause great harm. History is full of destruction done in the name of virtue. The fool hides behind morality because it gives him power without responsibility. Once someone believes they're good, they stop examining their actions. They no longer think, they justify. Machiavelli said, "Good intentions are the best disguise for manipulation." He knew moral certainty blinds faster than greed ever could. The self-righteous don't listen, they preach. They confuse emotion for truth. And that's when stupidity takes control. The problem isn't morality, it's the illusion that morality makes you intelligent. Kindness without understanding becomes weakness. Goodness without awareness becomes control. Modern society rewards those who look good, not those who think deeply. True morality doesn't need to shout. It shows through calm awareness and balance. Say it. I choose awareness over virtue. The system profits from your stupidity. Stupidity isn't just a weakness, it's a resource. The world profits from your attention. The less you think, the easier you are to control. The system doesn't need to silence you, it just needs to distract you. Every scroll, every click, every argument feeds the machine. Your focus and emotions are sold as currency. The less you question, the more predictable you become. Machiavelli said, "He who controls perception controls power." Today, perception is power. You no longer need to be convinced, only entertained. Stupidity has been repackaged as convenience. You're given endless choices that all lead to the same place: distraction. The system doesn't want awareness, it wants engagement. It doesn't seek truth, it seeks reaction. People mistake comfort for happiness, stimulation for progress. But awareness begins when you disconnect from noise. The moment you start thinking deeply, the illusion cracks. If they control your attention, they control your mind. So take it back. Say it. I control my focus. The lonely path of intelligence. When you begin to think independently, you naturally drift away from the crowd. True intelligence doesn't seek agreement, it seeks understanding. That's why thinkers often feel like outsiders in a world that rewards conformity. When you notice what others ignore, when you question what others accept, your awareness becomes your isolation. Society admires obedience, not reflection. The crowd wants comfort, even if it's false. The intelligent seek truth, even if it's painful. Machiavelli said, "There is nothing more difficult than leading a new way of thinking." He knew that thinking for yourself always disturbs those who don't. Intelligence is quiet rebellion, not through anger, but through awareness. It doesn't fight the system, it outgrows it. The more you understand, the less you need approval. And independence scares controlled minds. The crowd calls this arrogance, but it's simply freedom. Intelligent people often feel lonely, not because they reject others, but because the world prefers simplicity over depth. Their silence is called pride. Their awareness is called cynicism. But in truth, it's self-preservation, protection from shallow thinking. The wise don't hate society. They simply refuse to surrender their perception to it. Thinking deeply isn't rebellion against others, it's loyalty to reality, the power of thinking. Machiavelli's warning. Machiavelli would remind you, real power begins with self-understanding, and self-understanding starts when imitation ends. The moment you stop copying and start observing, you enter rare territory, a place few can follow. That loneliness isn't punishment. It's the price of awareness. The world may misunderstand the intelligent, but secretly, it depends on them to move forward. So never fear being different. Fear being thoughtless. Drop this in the comments. I think beyond conformity. Stupidity loves slogans, not questions. The modern fool speaks in repetition, not understanding. He hides behind slogans like "be kind" or "trust the process," phrases that sound wise but kill real thought. Words are powerful when used with awareness, but the unthinking use them as armor to avoid reflection. People love simple answers. They want truth to fit in one line, easy, safe, and shared by everyone. That's why slogans spread faster than ideas. Repetition feels safe because if everyone says the same thing, no one feels wrong. But questions are dangerous. They demand honesty, effort, and risk. Curiosity threatens the illusion of certainty, and the crowd fears that. They prefer the comfort of a chorus over the loneliness of real thought. Machiavelli said, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." Words can control perception even without truth, and that's how stupidity survives. When people chant, they feel united, but they are not thinking, only echoing. The more they repeat, the less they reason. They mistake slogans for wisdom, agreement for truth, and applause for understanding. Those who ask questions break this illusion, so they're mocked or ignored. But that rebellion, the act of asking why, is true freedom. Every time you repeat instead of question, you help ignorance grow. Awareness is the cure. To think for yourself is to resist the hypnosis of conformity. Machiavelli knew perception guides action. If you let others control your words, they will soon control your mind. So speak only when you understand. Listen only when you learn. And question endlessly. Drop this in the comments. I question over repeating. The fool is certain, the wise are not. Certainty is the comfort blanket of the unthinking. The fool hides behind it, convinced he's always right. He acts without hesitation, and that's what makes him dangerous. Not because he's evil, but because he never doubts. The wise, in contrast, embrace uncertainty. They know their vision is limited, and that doubt protects them from arrogance. Machiavelli said, "Men judge more from appearances than from reality. All have eyes, but few have the gift of penetration. The fool sees the surface and calls it truth. He fears questioning because it destroys his illusion of control. Certainty and stupidity walk hand in hand. Certainty stops reflection. It convinces people that learning is done, that the world is simple. But the wise understand. Truth has layers and knowledge never ends. Doubt is not weakness, it's power. Uncertainty makes you observant, strategic, and free. Certainty makes you blind, reckless, and predictable. Those who accept uncertainty cannot be manipulated by slogans, appearances, or fake logic. They think deeper. They move smarter. They evolve. Machiavelli would say, "The mind that doubts is the mind that rules itself." Drop this in the comments. I embrace doubt over certainty. Thinking is the last form of freedom. In a world where most people surrender their minds, thinking is rebellion. Freedom isn't just about movement or choice, it's about reflection, awareness, and independent thought. When society rewards obedience, comfort, and repetition, thinking becomes a radical act. Because the moment you start thinking for yourself, you become something the system cannot control. The final power. Thinking for yourself. Thinking is the last form of freedom. It is the final stronghold of independence, the one place where no one can rule you unless you allow it. Every mind that refuses to be passive reclaims control over itself. To think is to resist being shaped by opinions, distractions, and illusions. It is to see the world clearly, to observe instead of react, to understand instead of obey. Machiavelli once said, "Whoever desires constant success must change his conduct with the times." Those who think independently understand this truth. They know life is always changing. Power shifts, ideas evolve, and nothing lasts forever. The thinker doesn't bow to popular belief or easy truths. He examines, questions, and decides. In a sea of unthinking minds, the thinker stands alone, not as punishment, but as proof of strength. Thinking separates awareness from blindness. While others repeat and obey, the thinker observes, discerns, and chooses. Every action becomes intentional. Every decision becomes sharp. Thinking restores the power that most people give away. It brings clarity in chaos, focus in distraction, and direction when the world pulls you in every direction. That is why it's feared. Those who stop thinking become predictable, controllable, and easy to use. But the thinker cannot be ruled because his authority comes from within. No slogan, illusion, or false certainty can command him. The moment you start thinking for yourself, you step into power. You become untouchable, not because others are weak, but because you are awake. Thought is the final frontier of freedom. It cannot be taxed, silenced, or stolen, only surrendered. It survives beyond obedience and comfort. To think is to declare that your mind belongs to no one but you. Machiavelli would remind you, self-mastery is the highest form of control. Those who rule themselves can never be ruled by circumstance. The crowd follows trends, illusions, and easy guidance. The thinker, however, walks with awareness, strategy, and understanding. To abandon thought is to lose freedom. To preserve it is to gain power. In a world that profits from distraction and conformity, thinking independently is an act of courage. Don't trade your mind for comfort or approval. Guard it. Train it. Let it shape your life. That is where real power begins. Stupidity is not the lack of intelligence, it is the refusal to use it. Every day the world feeds you noise and illusions, keeping your mind obedient. The masses follow patterns, repeat slogans, and call that safety. But safety built on surrender is an illusion. True freedom begins where obedience ends. The mind that thinks independently is the last fortress of power. Every question you ask, every illusion you reject, strengthens that fortress. Awareness is not passive, it is action. It takes courage to see beyond appearances and refuse mental slavery. Machiavelli knew, power belongs to those who control themselves first, those who stay awake while others sleep in ignorance. The world will never reward deep thinking. It will mock, doubt, and try to silence the independent mind. But those who dare to think, who dare to question, will always rise above the obedient crowd. Do not trade awareness for approval. Do not follow illusions that comfort the masses. Real power begins in your mind, in reflection, strategy, and fearless questioning. The true act of rebellion today is not shouting, not following, not pleasing, it is thinking. If you remember one thing, remember this. Your mind is your last and greatest possession. Guard it, strengthen it, make it untouchable. Drop this final affirmation in the comments: I am untouchable in thought.